Hey Eagles fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Before we jump into today's video, go ahead and use the hashtag Eagles down below to ask a question, hopefully Eagles related, that I can answer in an Eagles mailbag video coming up in the next couple of days here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm going to try and answer as many questions as possible. So if you have an Eagles related question you want to ask me, go to the comment section, use the hashtag Eagles, and then type your question, and I'll probably find that for a video later on this week. Before we do that though, let's go ahead and jump right into our undrafted free agent video right now. Alright, so as the title says, we're going to go ahead and get into some of the undrafted free agents the Eagles have had up to this point. There's like 10 to 12 of them right now, and so far it's a pretty good group, and I think a couple of them have shot to actually make the Philadelphia Eagles final roster, starting with Grayland Arnold, the cornerback out of Baylor. Listen, this is a guy who's multifaceted in the secondary, which is perfect for an undrafted free agent. He's played in the slot, he's played at safety, he's returned punts, he's played on the outside at cornerback as well. He's the perfect hybrid type player the Eagles are going to look for to go ahead and add depth at the position, probably be a gunner on the outside for punt coverage, and just overall, it was a good player at Baylor. Had 6 interceptions in 2019, and a bunch of those were in big games, including Jalen Hurts whenever Baylor was playing Oklahoma. You know, I'm a Bears fan. If you're a follower here at Philadelphia Eagles Now, of course, we went and graduated from Baylor. I've seen Grayland Arnold play up close in person, but if I put the bias aside, I still believe Grayland Arnold has the flexibility to actually go ahead and make the Eagles roster, because the safety spot right now, you know, it's pretty young. You obviously drafted Kayvon Wallace this year, and you got Jalen Mills, but overall, not the fact that Arnold's going to be a starter or anything, but I think he has a real shot to go ahead and make the Eagles' final roster whenever we get through all of training camp. Another player that I think has a real shot of being, of being an Eagle going forward is Michael Warren, the running back out of Cincinnati. And you know, a lot of Eagle fans wanted the Eagles to draft a big power running back in this year's NFL draft. Well, they didn't, but then they went ahead and signed Michael Warren, who is that big back that we all wanted, right? This is essentially going to be a guy to compete for the Jordan Howard replacement slot going into the 2020 season alongside Elijah Holyfield, who was an undrafted free agent from Carolina last year, went and played at Georgia, and will probably, again, be competing with Michael Warren and be kind of that big 3rd and 1, goal line, 4th and 1 short yardage running back. And despite the fact he's a big guy, he still rushed for 2,500 yards the last 2 seasons. Think about that, 2,500 yards the last 2 seasons, and the Eagles have done well with undrafted free agent running backs in the past. Corey Clement, one of the heroes of Super Bowl 52, and then even recently, Boston Scott, who's number 2 right now on the Eagles running back depth chart. Warren in 2019, 261 carries, 1,265 yards, 4.8 yards per catch, and 14 total touchdowns. This is not just some sort of short yardage, big back fluke. He can run the football. I think it makes a lot of sense for an Eagles running back depth chart that, you know, there's not a lot of names on there, and obviously Holyfield already kind of has the edge up because he's technically been an Eagle longer, but both of them are kind of going into the 2020 season with fresh teams, and hopefully one of them comes out as our big 3rd down short yardage back the Eagles so desperately need. Before we keep going, quick ad break here on YouTube. Want to ask you guys back at the NFL draft, you guys still feel pretty good about the Eagles 2020 NFL draft? You feel good about it? Type Y down below for yes. If you don't like the Jalen Hurts, acquisition there in the 2nd round, type N down below. So Y if you like it, and if you don't, let me know in the comment section down below. All right, moving on. There are a lot of other names to get through on this list. Will they make the roster? Yeah, it's tough to say. Raekwon Davis, the defensive tackle from Sparty, is a perfect example of that. He's a redshirt senior, played a lot of games with Michigan State. The problem is the Eagles have a lot of young defensive talent guys that they're going to try to go ahead and get on the roster before Raekwon Davis. Now, with all the other players we're talking about on this list, if you don't make the final roster, the final depth chart, you can still be a practice squad guy, much like Greg Ward was before he got called up to go ahead and be the Eagles wide receiver later on during that playoff push. But Raekwon Williams is one of those guys they might need on a practice squad to go ahead and help, the players prepare for the upcoming games in terms of a week-by-week basis. So there's Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle out of Sparty. One I really like here is Julian Good-Jones, the offensive lineman from Iowa State, who finished his career as a left tackle and also won a first-team All-Big 12 awards in 2019, but has also played a little bit of center on the inside of the offensive line, which we know Philadelphia Eagles really are probably going to need that going forward, especially with Jason Kelce not only being a little bit older, but also announcing it's probably going to be his last season in Philadelphia. There's going to be a huge gap at the center position, and the Eagles did not draft a center, or really a true center, in the draft with their 10 overall pick. So Good-Jones comes in there again. Could be a practice squad guy, maybe, but you need some depth there at the center position, and that's another possibility for Philadelphia moving forward. Michael Jacquet III comes from Louisiana Lafayette as a cornerback. He began his career as a wide receiver, switched over and actually played 27 games at corner at Louisiana Lafayette 4 career interceptions. It's a crowded Eagles cornerback group, though. It's going to be tough for him to go ahead and make the roster, but he is another undrafted free agent of our Eagles. Before we keep going, though, I want to give a big thanks to all you guys. We just hit 8,000 subs here on Philadelphia Eagles now. A lot of new people came via the NFL draft, so welcome into the channel. We're going to be doing a ton of post-draft. There's still some free agency talk and all the latest Eagles offseason news here on the channel. So if you're brand new again, first time here, go ahead and click the red subscribe button because, in my opinion, we do the best job at covering the Eagles on the entire internet, but maybe I'm a little bit biased. Okay, moving on. Dante Olson, linebacker out of Montana. Another player I'm kind of a big fan of here from the undrafted free agent standpoint. He was a 2019 Buck Buchanan Award winner for the best defensive player in FCS. Like, literally the best defensive player in the FCS is on the Philadelphia Eagles now as an undrafted free agent. He's an absolute tackling machine and was so at Montana. The reason he wasn't drafted is because he ran a 4.88 at the NFL Combine. So speed's a little bit of a worry here for a guy like Dante Olson, but at the same time, you see the stats, I mean, good lord, a tackling machine up there at Montana. And I know it's FCS, but maybe, just maybe, that could go ahead and, you know, recreate itself at the National Football League level. The linebacker spot is a spot that you know I've talked about here at length here on the channel. They address it in the draft? Yes, they got 2 linebackers in the NFL draft, but doesn't hurt to have a couple of extras there in terms of undrafted free agents because you never know what's going to happen going into the offseason and training camp. Another player that I really like is Luke Juriga. I believe is how you say his name, Juriga, the center out of Western Michigan. And the Eagles must like him too because they gave him $116,000 in a guaranteed undrafted free agent contract, which is a ton of money overall. Free agent contracts in terms of undrafted guys ranges from $40K to $200K. It can range based on how much the Eagles and teams like these players, and obviously Luke is one Philadelphia really likes, and they should. He was a first-team All-MAC as a senior after switching to guard. He's also played a little bit of center as well, so again, there's that flexibility to play on the inside and the center position as well, with Jason Kelce playing his final season in Philadelphia. Excuse me, as we said, the Eagles did not draft a center this year, despite the fact that Kelce said he's going to play one more year. So whether they find somebody here in the undrafted free agent standpoint, they sign somebody later on, or they look to 2021 to be a center spot for the draft, this is another addition that helps going forward for the Philadelphia Eagles. You thought Jalen Hurts was the only quarterback they drafted? Well, they got an undrafted free agent quarterback as well, kind of, in Khalil Tate out of Arizona. So he's officially announced he's going to play wide receiver for Philadelphia or try to compete as a wide receiver. But he did play quarterback at Arizona and was a major dual threat guy just a couple of years ago. And so if I guess you weren't happy about Jalen Hurts, well, here's the Eagles doing it again with a guy that's actually going to play wide receiver instead of Hurts, who will be a quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, Greg Ward, anybody? Houston quarterback, and then of course undrafted, and then comes to Philadelphia and becomes a wide receiver. So maybe Ward can teach Khalil Tate a thing or two about being a wide receiver versus coming from a quarterback spot. Okay, are you guys still mad the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts? I know I just brought it up in a video that's not really about Jalen Hurts, but are you guys still mad about it? I'm still kind of there. Type 1 down below for yes, type 2 down below for no, if you're still upset with the whole Jalen Hurts signing in the second round. I mentioned it, so I figured I'd ask the question because I'm still kind of a little iffy on that one as well. Moving on, Elijah Riley is a safety out of Army that they went ahead and signed as an undrafted free agent. 79 tackles his senior season as Army. It's really just another body to go ahead and compete at the safety spot. Well, the Eagles did draft a pretty darn good safety there. One of my favorite picks in the Eagles NFL draft is in Kayvon Wallace out of Syracuse, who Brian Dawkins already gave his seal of approval on Twitter. So I think Elijah Riley has a long way to go to kind of compete for a safety spot here, especially with Jalen Mills and Kayvon Wallace now coming into the picture. Manasseh Bailey is a wide receiver, one of the few wide receivers the Eagles signed in the undrafted free agency period. He's from Morgan State, although it's weird, he started his college career, as a linebacker, and yet finished with the second most yards in single season history in the history of Morgan State. So, I mean, the linebacker switches over to wide receiver. He was third-team All-MEAC selection, and so another body to go ahead and give to Carson Wentz, and hopefully the best wide receivers, whether drafted or not, rise to the top of the Eagles depth chart, and hopefully, we'll be able to get the Eagles to be a lot better at the wide receiver spot going forward in 2020. Okay. We're not done yet, but so far, how would you grade the Eagles' undrafted free agent selections? A, B, C, D, F? I think pretty good so far. I'd give it a B+. I think the Eagles have done a pretty good job with their undrafted free agent signings. Maybe they'll find a diamond in the rough here. They've done so the past couple of years. So go ahead and give me your Eagles undrafted free agents a grade down below, and we'll keep moving on. Adrian Killings is a running back out of UCF. This is one I really don't see actually making the Eagles roster. He's very small. I mean, they're trying to recreate Darren Sproles here. He's 5'8", 164 pounds. I'm bigger than Adrian Killings, although I'm sure Killings is a lot tougher than I am because he's a football player. But like I said, tough to find a spot for him in camp. He's fast, he's quick, he can move side to side. He'll probably look good in camp, but it's tough to see him making an actual roster overall for Killings going forward in the 2020 NFL season. Prince Smith Jr. is a cornerback out of New Hampshire, who is a local guy in terms of went to high school in Philadelphia. He won the CAA Rookie of the Year in 2016 and had 3 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles his senior year. Another really tough sell to go ahead and make the roster just because the Eagles have kept a lot of cornerbacks in terms of they still have Crystal Douglas, they still have Avonte Maddox, they traded for obviously, they made the trade for Darius Slay. I mean, Jalen Mills is still on the roster, even though he's not a true cornerback. Avonte Maddox is probably going to start opposite of Darius Slay. They have a lot of cornerbacks overall, but Prince Smith Jr., throw him into the mix and, kind of see what happens going into the 2020 season. And the final player, the final undrafted free agent the Eagles have signed so far, and again, that can change over the coming days here on Philadelphia Eagles Now, is Noah Tugiani. I think it's pronounced Tugiani is how you actually pronounce his name. It's a tough one to say, but he's a tight end out of Oregon State, and Noah started 37 games at Oregon State as a tight end, one of those former basketball players who transitions to play tight end and will join a very crowded group in Philadelphia in terms of Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz and the other Eagle tight ends they currently have on this roster. But that was the final one so far up to the filming of this video. The Eagles have went ahead and signed up to this point. There you go. Do you have a favorite undrafted free agent rookie signing? Mine is very simply and very easily Michael Warren, the running back out of Cincinnati. To me, he's one that can actually not only make the roster, but provide a position of need for Philadelphia in terms of another running back and a bigger running back because Boston Scott is small and Miles Sanders is small as well. He'll compete with Elijah Holyfield going forward into the 2020 NFL season. There you go. That's, again, all the undrafted free agents we have so far here. We'll probably update you guys as we get more the next couple of days and weeks. Mailbag video later on this week. Be sure to get your guys' questions in. That way I can answer them regarding anything going on in the world of our Philadelphia Eagles. All the time we have for today. For Philadelphia Eagles Now, I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.